You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is healing from childhood or intergenerational trauma. The research into epi-genetic inheritance is gaining more traction in recent years. When patterns of sabotaging behaviours and bad habits seem to prevail, leading to chronic anxiety and unrelenting stress, it could be because of unresolved trauma memories. My special guest today is Daniela Malozzi, also known as the Happiness Queen. She specialises in muscle corrective therapy, life coaching, breathwork, and family constellations therapy. She's also a medium and a celebrant in marriage and end-of-life ceremonies. So welcome aboard, Daniela. Lovely to have you on the Body Charge podcast.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, beautiful Sandy. And the wind has just stopped in our favour. How good's that? Lovely
That's good.
autumn day.
That's a nice umbrella you created. Because it's windy there right now at the moment.
Well, it hasn't been long. It's been just the most beautiful autumn, but the weather's just starting to drop as we move into winter. But the wind was fierce when I woke up this morning. But just as you and I are connected, it suddenly calmed down.
Yeah, and I heard there's a big frost that's come in, and they've got their first snow further south in Tassie and parts of Victoria. So yeah, it's good for the snow season coming up.
Yes, I love this country's weather. I think it's fantastic.
There's always a good thing to look at somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. What do they say? The grass is always greener on the other side, but spent more time watering your own grass, it wouldn't be.
Oh, that's lovely. I have to write that one down. So getting to the question of the topic of today, how do muscles, the autonomic nervous system, and the subconscious mind hold onto emotionally hurtful experiences? And how do they create that negative feedback loop where we can't shake something off and it keeps following us around everywhere and we feel like we're being sabotaged with everything we try and do and all the goals that we set? And there's something like a stone in your shoe that won't go away. How do we find that stone?
I think it's important to understand the processes behind that. So, if I may share something about how our brain works to better elicit why some of these things happen, for want of a better word. So, there are four main aspects of the brain that I'm going to talk about. We have the bodyguard, who is the reptilian part, let's say, and that is the most evolved part of the brain. And the bodyguard doesn't care about your dreams. The bodyguard just wants to make sure you're breathing, your heart's beating, and your lungs are where they should be, and the breath is coming in and out. It doesn't care about anything else other than survival. So we'll call that part the bodyguard. Then we have the scanner, which is the limbic system. And the limbic system is where we are holding memories from the past. And this is where we touch on the trauma. So the scanner is constantly scanning for present threat based on the past threat that we have experienced. So the poor scanner is just constantly saying, does this look familiar? Am I going to get hurt here like I did before? Is that person going to upset me? Or, should I be worried? And it's connected to the hippocampus, which is the memory storage part of the brain. And it's connected to the amygdala, which is the alarm system that says, threat, everything, shut down. Let's just focus on what we need to focus on to survive. So imagine if, well, let's go to the other two parts as well, and then I'll bring them all together. So we've got the bodyguard, survival. We've got the scanner, constantly, asking, is the body safe? Is the body safe? Is the body safe? Then we've got the translator, which is the hypothalamus. It's a tiny part of the brain, but very powerful. And I like to imagine the hypothalamus as the command center. The old switchboard, Sandy, where they're like, hypothalamus is what can send signals to the autonomic nervous system that we're safe or that we need to run. And so that they're all working very closely together. Then we have the most evolved part of the brain, the CEO, as I like to call it, which is the prefrontal cortex. This is what differentiates us from animals. Animals have a natural response system, but they have a react system, should I say, and we have a response system. The CEO does care about your dreams. The CEO does care that you've got that stone in your shoe. The CEO does care that you want to move forward, and it allows rational. And the most beautiful thing about the CEO for me is that it allows us a time to pause and consider our decisions and choices. So, for example, there's a program that we're offering in prisons at the moment, a lot of us volunteering, to explain how trauma affects the brain. Because a lot of people in prisons, when they're interviewed, have said things like, I don't know why I did it. I know it was wrong. I thing came over me. And as a person that's experienced a lot of different types of trauma in my existence and is actively putting myself into traumatic states such as shark swimming, I really needed to understand what happens in the brain and how to best manage it and get the best results from it. So let's bring it all together. Imagine you've got that stone in the shoe, okay? It's really frustrating and aggravating, and the bodyguard is saying, I'm not comfortable, okay? I'm not comfortable. It's really frustrating me. And let's say in the past somebody threw stones at you. Let's say they abused you with stones, or your scanner limbic system says, uh-oh, this could be more than a stone. This could be really bad. And for that person, they could be so overly alerted about the stone in their shoe that it could impair their journey. Whereas somebody else might not even notice it because they weren't experiencing trauma with stones in the past. And then the hypothalamus, the command center says, right, okay, we can't concentrate about anything else except this stone in the shoe. And now we're uncomfortable. And now we need to send signals that we're needing to fight, flee, or
Fight,
freeze.
fight or flight.
So then
That's
the
your sympathetic nervous system. Yeah.
exact fight, flight, freeze, or please. And then the CEO kind of doesn't get a chance to make any rational decisions. I know we're minimizing this with the stone, but imagine that the stone
No,
is
it's a good
pain
analogy.
or
Yeah.
yeah, it was yours. I'm leading off it. It was a good
Uh,
analogy.
yeah, let's keep going with that.
Imagine the stone is trauma. And the CEO doesn't really get a say. The CEO is kind of quietened down because the most primitive part of the body is survival. So, me, for example, going on with these sharks, people think I'm insane, but I had a traumatic experience in the water on my 49th scuba dive. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this part of that trauma. Just even thinking about what happened in that moment, I can elicit a feeling of panic in my body and a traumatic response, a feeling of increased heart rate. My chest tightens, my brain feels foggy, I can't think straight. And I'm sure if people had a thought about a traumatic event from the past, they would too find that their body reacts, which shows us something fascinating, Sandy, that the body is not reacting to the trauma, it's reacting to the thoughts and the feelings about the trauma or what is stuck in the scanning system,
The
which is
memory.
constantly alerting the body that we are
Yeah.
in threat, which is why I believe that talk therapy is a wonderful tool to get us to a certain point, but actually there needs to be some movement of the physical body to actually move the physical trauma, which, because the mind tells the story and the mind can change the story and create the story, but the body shows you what stayed and the body shows you what's there. That's why I love to do the breath work, the family constellations, the allowance of acknowledgement and acceptance. Even just a few words, Sandy, can allow somebody to find a state of peace in the body because the brain does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined.
Yes, we can conjure the same kind of cortisol and adrenaline release, the stress hormones, just from a memory or even watching a movie. If we're caught with the story, it seems real. We get sucked into this virtual reality simulation, and it's as though we're in that movie. It's real, and it's conjuring up all the same kind of physical reactions, and the muscles tense, And then we need to grab our magnesium to relax our muscles to get back to balance.
It is needed. I imagine the magnesium is the let's say we've got the CEO. The magnesium is the one that manages all of them. He manages this. Let's say the magnesium is the mentor for the CEO, the scanner, the translator, and the bodyguard. And without the magnesium, those guys are all really quiet and they can't necessarily do the things they're supposed to do.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
there's a process, isn't there? So the body firstly needs to relax. Talk therapy doesn't work if everything's tense and you've shut down the prefrontal lobe, which is the most advanced area of our thinking capacity. That's where we solve the problems. We can't solve the problems in fight or flight because we need all our energy going to our limbs so we can run away or we can defend ourselves. And so thinking is put on the back seat. But to solve problems, we need thinking to come back. And for thinking to come back, we need to relax all the muscles to move from sympathetic back into parasympathetic mode where we feel safe. And so, this, I think, is the crux, isn't it? How do we feel safe when we can't detach from a subconscious trauma or trauma we don't even realize is still stuck there generating reactive responses and triggering the sympathetic nervous system? How do we change that?
Great questions. So I'll give you a very real-time example. Yesterday, I worked with a handful of clients, and one of them in particular, very intelligent, very bright, very aware young lady who has done so many different types of therapy. And she came in, she traveled 2.5 hours to get here, bless her heart, brought me flowers because she said the last session when I was releasing the muscles through the muscle corrective therapy, she said I felt so much more relaxed in my body. And then this time she came in and we went in a little bit deeper to last night. We had a more layered approach to her onion, if you like. And she was blown away by how simple it was. And one of the things that I hear often from clients is, I know it logically, so why can't I release it physically? Or I understand it logically, but that's still not allowing me to heal. And that's because the body keeps the score. The body remembers, the body shows you what stayed. So last night when we did a guided visualization, we started off with a bit of deep trance, which is hypnotherapy, just relaxing the body. And when the body is relaxed and calm and in stillness, it has a chance to restore. It has a chance to realize and to know that you're safe because in that moment, there's no potential threat other than your thoughts. So once we've relaxed the mind and body, I then journey somebody into a guided thought process and feeling process with their mum and dad. Because their mother and father, your mother and father, my mother and father, are the first interactions with life and love. So often we can trace back many issues to them. Not that that's their fault or blame in any way, but our relationship to our parents seems to relate to every other aspect of our life to some degree. So, in short, this lady in the meditation process said 3 words of acknowledgement. And in those, something as simple as, I felt overwhelmed when you kept on shouting. She came from an Asian background and there was a lot of noise and she just never felt her voice was heard. And she said, I felt overwhelmed or I didn't feel safe. She said those words. And as soon as she said those words, as an intuitive person, I was able to sense that something had shifted in her field. And then when she responded, she said, I feel so much peace. But her parents aren't there. There's no one there. There was nobody there. She had her eyes closed and it was just me in the room. So, how is it that a person is suddenly, after years and years of feeling this discomfort, this disconnection, suddenly she felt safe and comfortable in her body? Her breathing changed, her body language changed. So, I think for me, what I get out of that time and time again is, if you can teach your body, preach to your body, and practice within your body that you're safe, that everybody has done the best that they can do, and that in better circumstances, of course, everybody would do better. So again, let's just go back to the shark analogy because it's quite a strong one. So I understand jaws and the threats of potential sharks, but yet my dream is to swim in the wild with a great white shark. So how is it that my body can feel safe about that, and then it can feel traumatized when I have one thought about being in the water? Because this is another tip for people. If you can override the limbic system panic with safe thoughts and feelings, which is why the law of attraction says you have to teach your body how your desired thought feels. Because your limbic system says, you're not rich. How can you do an affirmation about being
It's
rich? I know you're not
it's
rich. I've got
habitual, isn't it? It's a creature of habit, that part of the brain. It's all habits.
exactly. I have created a habit of watching so many shark documentaries, reading articles, understanding shark behavior as best as I can. Not that I want to be a shark expert, it might only be a one off experience. But I did it recently with 20 odd grey nurse sharks. And when I got into the water, I noticed that thought about the trauma that I had on my 49th dive, where I couldn't get to the surface, I couldn't breathe, I almost died. It was quite a big trauma. But I overrode that by reminding myself that I've done about 54 dives, and that was one trauma. The same with a lot of people. Some people might say, oh, I'm terrified of throwing up my food because I did it that one time. Or I'm terrified of my heart getting broken because that one time. Or what if all the men leave me because my dad left? So we have this one thought that seems to habitually override any aspect of the CEO
Yeah,
that says, but the future could be different. So stillness, silence, and safety are the three main takeaways from that. Sitting with
it's
yourself and reminding yourself that you're safe by visualizing and practicing in the feeling. So I've practiced, how will it feel with the shark? How will it feel when I fall in love again? Because you can't control what you can't control, right?
yes, it sounds very much like what's meant by living in the now. And those emotions that are in the memory are not in the now. And so learning how to separate what what was in the past and not bringing that same emotion and physical response into the present. I think being able to separate that is like a big step forward and probably really helps your particular therapy, especially in the intergenerational space. So we may not be consciously aware that we're carrying forward unresolved trauma, even though we may not have had that trauma as a child. It may be something previous generations had experienced, perhaps in a war or some kind of other circumstance, and they never got over it. And so there's this energetic memory that can be carried forward epigenetically. So how do you address those kind of really old carry-ons?
Well, that's what Family Constellations seeks to address. There are three main orders of love and understandings within constellations that says unresolved issues will always pass down. Everyone in the family system belongs, and those who came first. So basically, that's saying that there is a particular order of a way a family. Can you still hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, just
There's a
breaking up a
particular
bit.
order.
Mm.
There's a particular order of a way a family system energetically is supported, and if some of that support system is fragmented or disordered, it impacts future generations. So let's go back to that client yesterday. When she said the words, I don't feel safe, I am the little one, you are the big one. These are some of the statements we use in family constellations. You are the best parents for me. These support the limbic system to realize that the previous fear, the previous panic, the previous disconnection to the family is no longer, because you're saying statements in present tense and
Hmm.
you're eliciting, you're feeling those words in the body. So we don't have to go back to great, 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 great grandmother. We don't just inherit eye color either. We inherit patterns and unresolved issues, but we don't have to go and find them in the grave. We can allow that energy within us to heal by accepting things as they are and getting the best from our family line. We talk a lot about the trauma that is passed down. Wonderful things. Once the trauma is healed, we get to experience the wonder and the wisdom of our ancestral line and the safety and the freedom that is available within that line once that trauma is accepted and acknowledged. It doesn't have to be forgiven. Some things are not able to be forgiven easily or at all, for that matter, for some people. But to accept and acknowledge that something happened is often something that doesn't happen easily in families. And that's why I love family constellations. A
Yeah,
very
because
loving process.
I think that in human nature, we like to feel a sense of balance. And why these traumas don't go away and remain unresolved is because we don't feel the balance was ever achieved. So, from what you do with family constellations, it sounds like you reestablish a new balance and a new memory of what that balance feels like in the present, which then allows them to disconnect because the other thing was to do with the past and it's not relevant today anymore. So you break the spell, you break the chain.
Yeah, I like that. Break the spell. Yes. Yeah, it's lovely work. It's some of the fastest trauma response results I've seen in the 12 years I've been working within this health field. I've seen somebody heal within 4 minutes of just acknowledging two or three statements that their little inner child or their body was just wishing they could feel, which is we all want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we all want to be understood. But often the world doesn't see, understand, and hear us the way we need to. So when we do that within ourselves, which is why I like to talk about the science of self love, it's not a fluffy woo woo, oh, I love myself, life is good.
Kumbaya.
Positive affirmations are wonderful, but
Yeah.
kumbaya, hello. If you actually feel a sense of love, for me, that's homeostasis. I believe self love is homeostasis, which is the body's natural state of harmony and calm. And when we feel that, it doesn't mean that we like everyone and that, we have no problems with the past. It just means that we accept the problems in the past and don't allow them to keep on leaky tap draining our energy. And even if we don't like someone or we don't want to spend time with somebody, we can still have a sense of peace within that acknowledgement.
Yeah, it's acceptance. Accept when you love someone, you love them warts and all, right? Because nobody's perfect. There are things you have to compromise on because it is the way it is. And that's how you stay in the present. You can experience life every day, find good things in it. Doesn't matter if you had a really crap day. If you have that presence of mind, you can go, well, there was one really good thing that happened. You just keep looking for it. That's the autonomic nervous system. It has to be trained that way, right?
Got a compass inside each of us, and every day we have to wake up and just check where our compass point is, because sometimes it will be facing more north than other times. And imagine that north is when we're on track, when we're disciplined, when we're focused, when we have a lot of self praise, self worth, self love. And I believe we should be facing north about 80% of the time, especially within three main areas of our life, including how we think, what we eat, how we feel. So about 80% of the time, if we can be disciplined, focused, thinking positive, encouraging thoughts, um, feeling safe and moving our bodies, maybe going to the gym 4 times a week or walking daily 4 or 5 times a week. And then 20% of the time, as my grandmother says, a little bit naughty. You can do whatever you want. Maybe have for a couple of days, eat that ice cream or whatever, have that glass of wine. But I think that because we don't understand how, if we do that too often, we will
Yeah.
turn south,
It's about balance.
disease,
Yep.
disorder. But what is balance? A lot of people don't even know what that is. And I think it's about understanding your balance because your
Yes.
body, certain
Mm-hmm.
pH level, you
Yep.
might be able to cope with 2 glasses and only might be able to have one. So
Or
I might need to
none.
have 4 glasses. Yeah, exactly. And each person will get to know themselves, I think, a little bit more the more they pay attention. You get what
Yeah.
you you focus on, right? And
Yeah, so it's your inner scanner. You're cultivating and nurturing and training your inner scanner to scan always what has to be done to get back to balance for your own body, your own mind, your own self. And the ruler is when you're in balance, you feel so good. You feel blissful, you feel energetic, you feel happy. Um, it's the balance point, the 0 point, the zone of balance. And we need to learn for that on an individual basis. There's no one else that can tell you. People can guide you, but you have to find it yourself.
when people say they can't meditate or they find it hard to meditate, I'm like, let's explain what meditation is. Going back to the roots in Sanskrit, it is to become familiar. It's not to sit there like a monk with a perfect ability to stop thoughts, because I don't even know if that's possible. I think meditation is the art of knowing yourself, learning yourself, and liking yourself. And that's hard. Like when people say, "Oh, I find it really hard, I can't meditate." I'm like, yeah, it's not easy. It's not
Mm.
easy to
We're
go to
not
the gym.
trained that way. Probably be better if we train children that way, and then they wouldn't be adults with so many issues.
Now, there are certain places where instead of detention, they offer meditation to help the
Nice.
child reflect.
Yeah.
Tribes, when something wrong, instead of admonishing them, they all gather around them and send them love
Yep.
until that child has felt love.
And so interesting. It also generates alpha brain waves, and that's where the brain becomes very creative. It really feels safe. It's in the zone. And it helps if we get together sometimes with others and they're participating in whatever that meditative task is. It might be Tai Chi or yoga, meditation groups. There's some kind of power in, a number of people doing it together. Quite mysterious, but big power.
The alpha brainwaves apparently also expand or flood more in singing in groups, as well as
Yes.
oxytocin. It's so strong in people that sing with strangers, which is probably why church gatherings are so
Yeah.
social and lovely for a lot of people. And there are studies on the chromosome, the ends of chromosomes, the telomeres, as the Americans say, and they determine how long we could potentially live. And by the way, fizzy drinks shorten them the fastest.
Mm.
Meditation, them. So again, meditation for me is being calm, being still in
Feeling
some way
safe. Yep.
inside with curiosity, not judgment, not, harshness. And alpha brainwaves, I love that moment when you wake up in the morning and you're submerged in that space between stillness and
That
wake.
twilight zone.
Is the alpha
Yep.
state for about 12 minutes to get to that point, just to sort of tell the body card, we're good, mate, we're good, we're all right. Scanner, chill out, we're fine. Translator, it's okay, you can go and have a little 5 minute break. And prefrontal cortex, shh, I've got this. And I just go calm, but it takes about 12 minutes. And then
Yeah.
after 12 minutes, I move from my head down into my heart, and I just feel this peace and this stillness. The same peace and stillness that I see on my clients' faces when they've had the process of letting go, acknowledging, or accepting something. Them, how do you feel? And they say, I feel a lightness. Where do you feel it? They say, in. How do you feel? Peace. Where do you feel it? In my
In the
thousands and
in my heart.
thousands.
Yep.
What's in the chest? You got it. And the heart
Yep.
has around six more receptors than the head. And the head lies. The heart doesn't lie.
Yep.
This lies.
Yep.
Take a bit more, connect to it, then it will be stronger.
Yes, so we're coming to an end, Daniela, and I loved everything you said, and maybe we can do this on another podcast, talk more about the power of singing together in groups. That's very interesting. But in the meantime, before we close, can you let people know where they can find you, your website, read more about what you do, and maybe, you know, get some coaching?
My name is Daniela. You can find me on Instagram as Daniela, the Happiness Queen. And Daniela's got one L. Or my website, www.thehappinessqueen.com. Through my website, you can access Facebook and Instagram as well. And feel free to reach out for a 15-minute discovery call as to how I can help you. And you never know, you may even get what you need in that 15 minutes. I'm an ethical therapist. I believe my job is for you to not need therapy long term, but just a nudge in the right direction. Sandy, it's always a pleasure connecting to you.
Yeah, likewise, Daniela. Thank you. Bye-bye. I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electramagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.